Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Gridiron 2024. Ron Poniewasz, Larry Kelly. We are your award-winning Gridiron team. Larry Kelly is a member of the Luxembourg, Garbutt, Kelly, and George law firm, current assistant baseball coach with Penn State Shenango, also a current volunteer assistant for the Newcastle boys basketball team, former varsity baseball coach at Shenango, former ninth grade coach for the Newcastle High basketball team. If I'm missing anybody, let me know. Former baseball player for North County, maybe current baseball player. Who knows? I don't know.
You got it all covered. You can add one other. I was the girls varsity basketball coach for the 5th and 6th grade Holy Redeemer Blazers, too. Section champs, by the way.
Wow.
Diocesan runner-ups. I never had more fun coaching than I did the 5th and 6th grade girls at Holy Redeemer in Elwood City.
What did heel turn going coaching a private school, Larry?
Well, yeah, I guess I was coaching a private school, but at the elementary level in a Catholic school league, everybody's the same. Nobody was recruiting anybody. We didn't have Michael Jordan playing for us, even though we had a really good team. I wrote a book about it, Cutting Down the Nets. I'll send it to you, Ronnie. You can read it. Do a review.
Okay, I'm anxiously going to await that. All right. Well, we have quite a segment of podcast items to talk about this week. We're going to tell you about a young man that performed very well in especially in key situations Friday night for his team. And then we're going to rank our teams 8 through 1. This is our ranking segment, time of year actually, because, well, we are at the turn. We're getting ready to start week 6 around the county, so why not rank the team and give a state of the county, and then we'll tell you the schedule around the county. But first up, this is a Newcastle type of week, and it's Larry Kelly's type of week. And you can tell because he's sitting there rocking and beaming like crazy.
Absolutely.
Athlete of the week is Kaevon Gardner, Newcastle High senior, 5'11", 185-pound, running back, defensive back. Last week, Kaevon had 18 carries for 192 yards and 4 touchdowns on runs of 10, 45, 80, and 4. He caught 1 pass for 13 yards. And all that came in a 42-32 come-from-behind home win over Knock on homecoming. So quite a performance by Kaevon Gardner.
You know, I coached hoops at Newcastle for 12 years. Even at the 9th grade level, I probably coached 150 young men. And you're not supposed to have favorites, okay? You're just not. But one of my all-time favorites was Kaevon Gardner. He is tough. He is smart. He's a yes sir, no sir guy. And he's a tremendous, tremendous athlete. You know, he's one of those guys you can count on. When the pressure gets so high, you can't spit. Kaevon Gardner's star shines brightest. He's my guy, Kaevon Gardner. What a great choice you made, and what a great game he played for the Red Hurricane. I've heard people tell me that was one of the most exciting games they ever witnessed at Taggart Stadium. The comeback, and, you know, Kyrell Harris, another one of my guys. Nate McKnight, another one of my guys. You know, it just was a tremendous game for a program that's turning it around, and they changed their culture. And I want to give a shout out to another one of my guys I coached, Marcos Diaz. He's a tackle for the team. He's one of those guys opening the hole for guys like Kaevon. It was a great night to be a Red Hurricane, Ronnie.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And, you know, Larry, you project as a baseball coach, so you will enjoy the reference. Kaevon Gardner is a home run hitter. You got touchdown runs of 45 and 80. You get him out in the open field, you're just not going to catch him.
Matt Mangino, who coached with Coach Mazzocco, he's a member of my office. He was at the game. He said on 2 of those long runs, you know, defensive players for Knock had the angle on Kaevon, and it didn't matter. It didn't matter. They had the angle on him, and his speed, you know, was just amazing. As you know, he was the gold medal winner in the Whippeal 100-yard dash. Tough kid, smart kid, somebody you can count on, laser focused. There you go for the first time today. Mentally tough. Kaevon Gardner's the real deal. And he's one of those guys that'll play at the next level. He will, because he has all the ingredients to be a great player, both in the classroom, on the field, outside of the classroom. I'm proud of him. He's the real deal.
Yeah, and another thing that you'll enjoy about the stats that he put up is they were in a close game. They're down 13-0 early, came back. I think they were down by 2 scores in the fourth quarter, and again came back. So it's not like 192 yards and 4 touchdowns came in a 55-6 game. No, they were behind on a couple of occasions by 2 scores.
Yeah, well, they scored 3 times in the last 3 minutes and 30 seconds in the game, I believe. What a tremendous game. Coach Mazaka gets a lot of the credit. You know, the hardest thing to do, Ronnie, the hardest thing to do is to change the culture of a program. It's hard, and there are bumps in the road, and not everybody's going to be in the rowboat with 10 toes in the water while you're trying to do it. Trust me, been there, done that. There's resistance. Sometimes you got to be tough. Sometimes, you know, a player got to be a victim of circumstance. But if you want to have a winning culture, you got to pay the price to do it. And the Hurricane, they're paying the price.
Yeah, Larry Kelly, big time Three Stooges fan, a victim of circumstance.
Yes, sometimes a player got to be a victim of circumstance. I could tell you a story about our first year at Newcastle. A couple players were victims of circumstance. But you got to lay the law down. You got to make it clear what is acceptable and what isn't. And Coach Mazaka and his staff are doing that. And I'm proud of those guys too. This is not easy, man. 4-0, 2002. Is that what you told me 22 years ago? Since they've been 4-0. And now they got Aliquippa on Friday. And look, Aliquippa is Aliquippa. They are who they are. They're a Beaver County All-Star team. They had 7 kids transfer into their school last year to play football this year. So the Newcastle's going to show up. If Aliquippa thinks we're not coming, somebody better call their athletic director and tell them we'll be there 7 o'clock on Friday night. We'll be there.
Yeah, I don't think Aliquippa doubts that. I'm sure they'll be ready and expecting a large contingent from the fans as well. Newcastle is now 4-0 overall, and Kaevon Gardner for the year, 43 carries, 418 yards, and 9 touchdowns for the young man. Congratulations, Kaevon Gardner, for this week's Athlete of the Week. Coming up next, right here on Gridiron, Larry and I will tell you about our rankings for the county, 8 through 1. We'll see how much we match each other. I have a feeling that you could probably guess Larry Kelly's number 1.
Absolutely. I'll say it right now, baby. I haven't said this in a long. Let me end the suspense right now. The Red Hurricane is the best team in the county. There, Ronnie. I said
it. All right. You know that'll be pulled out for a sound clip. Back with you here in a couple seconds here in 2 and 2, as they might say, right here on Gridiron.
There's one thing I learned growing up around here. People should look out for each other. Be friends and neighbors that you can count on. So it bothers me when people who are hurt in automobile accidents get bullied by the insurance company. I don't let bullies run over my clients. I do what I was taught growing up. Step up, stand up, and speak up for those who can't. I'm Larry Kelly, and I'm a Newcastle guy.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Gridiron. This is our ranking segment as we are at the halfway mark of the football season. Boy, that time has flown in this football season. It seems like just not too long ago we were putting our football tab together, talking scrimmages and things like that, and here we are halfway home and starting to have an eye toward the playoffs a little bit too. So, Larry, what we are going to do is you will lead us off on the evens, so 8, 6, 4, and 2. And I will take the odds, which is obviously 7, 5, 3, and 1. Naturally, number 8 means you're leading us off. Who is number 8?
It's Union High School this year. And, it's hard at a school that is a small class A school. You're not going to have that boatload of talent every year. You're just not. Braylon Thomas, Mikey Gunn, we talked about it. The John Key guys, they've graduated. And, man, did they make a statement for Union. Winning a Whitfield championship, first in school history. I mean, that was a special group of guys. But now you're playing with young guys without a lot of experience. Coach Niebala didn't forget how to coach. But, Ronnie, I've said this a million times, having coached for over 25 years at different sports, it's all about the players. And this year, Union's playing with some young kids, and it's showing.
Yeah, actually, Union, as much as they probably profile as a 1A school, they're playing up this year in 2A in the Midwestern Athletic Conference. They're 0-4 overall. They have problems scoring this year. They scored 20 points in the opener against Neshannock, and then they've followed that up with 6, 6, and 6. So they have 38 points in 4 games. And Larry, you probably remember Deuce Skarsinski.
I do, absolutely. I have his card. I still have his card.
Yeah, for those that might not know that name, Pittsburgh area scribe, covered a lot of games, football, basketball, probably baseball, softball. As Larry mentioned, he had what you would call a trading card of himself. We have one in here in the office. I kind of passed that down to Dan Irwin, but I don't have an accurate count of how many games I have covered, football, basketball, what have you. Whereas Deuce did. He could tell you right off the bat, I've covered X amount of football games. The reason I'm telling you this, Larry, is Friday night I covered a game and I saw something in a game I've never seen before in my stop in Warren, Ohio at the Warren Tribune or here at the Newcastle News. They're coming off the field. If you've been to Union High School, you come down through the bleachers to exit, get ready to do interviews, and Union's coming off the field. Officials are coming off the field as well. And there's kind of an argument between Kim Niebala and the officials, and there's kind of a banter back and forth. And Union branches off into their little dressing quarters, if you will. Referees head out into the parking lot. And a referee threw a flag in the parking lot after the game. It was in my story, and I have never seen that in my life.
Yeah, I don't know what that was all about. Would he give Coach Niebala an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty?
Yeah, but in the parking lot after the game.
I don't. It could be. I don't know what. Listen, I've seen officials in the last few weeks do some things that are mind-boggling. So I guess nothing they would do would surprise me.
Yeah, he got hit with 2 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. Kim Niebala did in the first half when Western Beaver returned a punt for a touchdown. So they had 30 yards of penalties, and Western Beaver was kicking off after the extra point on Union's 30. And rather than do an onside kick, they just booted it through the end zone, which I was kind of puzzled why Western Beaver wouldn't try an onside kick there. There's nothing to lose, but be that as it may, normally when a student athlete gets 2 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties, I believe they're kicked out of the game. I'm assuming those penalties were against Kim Niebala, but he continued to coach. And then again, after the game, there was arguing going back and forth between the coaches, as there were coaches and officials, or a coach and the officials, and they threw a flag in the parking lot. Again, I have no idea unless that's their way of saying, look, you're on notice of a flag.
Well, I mean, in hoops, as you well know, 2 technical fouls and you don't coach the next game. That may be true in football also. Coach Niebala is obviously frustrated, and it's hard. You can get frustrated, but you can't lose your composure. You just can't. I'm not a great coach. Nobody will ever accuse me of having been a great coach, but in 25 years, I never got a technical foul, nor did I ever get thrown out of a baseball game. So, you just got to maintain your composure. And I'm proud of that. Look, and there have been some stuff that went on that, would make your head shake. But, you are a role model for the young men that you coach. And I've always said, if the coach loses his composure, then the team will lose theirs. So I always was very careful not to lose mine.
Yeah, I'm a Robert Montgomery Knight fan, always have been, always will be. So I had no issue with if something bothers you, you let it out. You don't keep it, bottled up. So I can't really criticize Kim Needballa too much in that regard. Number 7, I will lead it off. I have Shenango at number 7, 1 and 2 overall. They had a 5-point road win over Northgate, Larry. We're going to find out how good this team is. A lot of teams have played 4 games or 5 games. Shenango's kind of behind the 8 ball, only playing 3 games. One canceled because of weather issues, and then obviously the tragedy surrounding Coach Graham's son. But 3 games. We're going to find out how good this team is as we get deeper into conference play.
I have Laurel at number 7, only because they're struggling to win games, and that's unusual because that program has pedigree. And again, when you're playing with young guys, especially in football, freshmen and sophomores don't beat juniors and seniors. Rare exception. So I have Laurel at number 7.
Okay. All right. And I will have a surprise for you regarding Laurel, but being that as it may, and Laurel's your 7, you are up next on your 6.
Yeah, I have Shenango at 6. They're 1 and 2. There was a big win that they had against Northgate, I believe. And now they lose last week, but they played a good team. Again, you're playing with young guys. It's tough. It's just tough. Now they do have some senior leadership. Sam Patton was the athlete of the week last week. And, he will keep them competitive.
Yep. Okay, number 6 for me, I have Laurel. They just couldn't buy a win earlier in the season, losing games, missing 2 field goals in the 4th quarter against Riverside, losing an overtime game against Elwood when you tie it late in the game and throwing an overtime pick, in that game, and losing a 5-point game against Mohawk. But I did something that coaches can't do. I looked ahead on their schedule, and if you looked on our website on my Ron Poniewasz's best bets, my high school pick last week was Laurel to go on the road and beat Rochester. Cha-ching, they got that done. Now, why did I look ahead? Because I wanted to see how this schedule is going to shake out for Laurel. I have Gang Green going on a run, Larry. They play this week at home against Northgate. That's a win. They play the following week against Summit Academy. That's a win. They play Shenango the next week. I'm going to give Laurel a win. That's 4-0 in the conference with 2 games left. They have Southside Beaver. That's when business picks up for the Spartans. And then the season finale at Neshannock on October 25th. I like Laurel to be 4-0 going into that Southside Beaver game.
Well, I think you're right. I said they lost 3 games that they could have won. Now, they did beat Rochester, but this isn't the Rochester team of years past.
Right.
That team is struggling mightily. And I just think that Shenango's win over Northgate was a better win right now than Laurel's win over Rochester. And that's why I flip-flopped them. Mm-hmm. But listen, Laurel has pedigree, and they're well coached. And they could turn it around. And if we revisit this 3 weeks from now, they may be a lot higher in these ratings, at least in my view.
Right. Okay, number 5, I have the Mohawk Warriors at 2 and 2. Bobby Fadden's done a good job playing quarterback for the Warriors. And, going into the season, we've talked about this. We were wondering who's going to replace Jay Rona at quarterback. How good is he going to be? Can they get to the playoffs? Well, some of these questions are still, unanswered. I think they'll make the playoffs, but it's too early to tell in conference play. How good has Bobby Fadden been? He's been pretty well. He's done a good job.
Well, as usual, you're wrong again. I have Mohawk rated higher. Think about the teams that beat them. Elwood City and Neshannock, those are two good teams. I have Wilmington at 5, and they got they lost Chase Mickeltree, who's a great running back for them, Coach Bob Mickeltree's grandson. and they got a game against Farrell this week. So I have them at 5 because I think Mohawk's a better team at this stage of the game.
Okay. All right. So you are up with your number 4.
Number 4 is Mohawk. Again, they've lost 2 games, but they've lost 2 games against 2 pretty good teams. They got beaten by Neshannock the first game of the year, and they got beaten by Elwood City at Elwood City. And obviously, this Elwood City team is for real. They laid a beating on Freedom last week. So I have them at 4. And I believe, like you think Laurel's going to run the table, I think Mohawk's running the table the rest of the year.
Okay. All right. Wilmington. I have Wilmington at number 4.
Explain to me why you have Wilmington at number 4. They beat Kennedy Catholic, and then they have another win against a team that's good. But why do you have them over Mohawk? Explain that to me.
Well, they're 3-1. Their lone loss is to Hubbard, Ohio, and their other 2 wins are, I believe, Sharpsville and Greenville, something like that.
Sounds right. Yeah.
So yeah, that's who I have. They were idle last week, going into their big test this week against Farrell.
I just don't think Sharpsville and Greenville have the same caliber of team that Neshannock and Elwood City have. You know, District 10, Wilmington's been a powerhouse, and Coach Fillion is the real deal. And year in and year out, they're good. They're real good. They went to the state championship game 2-3 years in a row. But the competition in District 10 isn't the same as what it is in the WPIL. I believe that. But they're going to see stiff competition next week. And if they beat Farrell, I will tip my hat, and they will certainly move up in my rankings.
Okay. All right. Number 3, I have the Neshannock Lancers at number 3. Their lone loss is to Elwood City Lincoln. And each week, it's a different star leading the way for the Lancers, Larry.
I agree with you. This is a good football team. And I think that Elwood City and Neshannock are probably pretty even talent-wise and on par with each other. However, Elwood City, they hold the trump card because they beat them. So I have Neshannock at 3, and it's my turn now, which leaves me at Elwood City at 2. You talk about a team that's turned it around and changed the culture. They beat Freedom last week 43-3 and rushed the ball, for 161 yards and passed it for 189, which is a little upside down for Elwood City. I mean, normally they run the ball down your throat, control the clock. Defensively, they stood up. So I think they're getting better with each passing week. So I have them at 2.
Okay, Elwood City is your 2. At number 2, this team has a plus 55 point differential. 4-0 in the county, or 4-0 on the season. That team would be the Newcastle Red Hurricane. They are the 2 ranked team on the Ron Poniewasz list with a plus 55 point differential.
You're just blowing whatever credibility that you had. You're losing it. You're just losing it. You're losing. I always thought you you are a prognosticator, a knowledgeable football person. Look, I like Elwood City. I do. They're good. They're not better than Newcastle, my man. They're just not. You don't want to give any due to the Red Hurricane. But you're entitled to your opinion, however wrong it may be. You're entitled to it. Listen, I may not agree with you, but I will fight to the death to allow you to express your opinion, even though it's wrong and I disagree with it.
Okay, so if you did not go to Newcastle and you weren't a Newcastle guy, that kind of stuff, where would you have Newcastle?
Ronnie, I'd still have them at 1. Yeah, listen, they have an offense that is as explosive as any offense I've seen at Newcastle in a long, long time. I mean, you talk about the ability to score and score quickly. They ran a kickoff back 85 yards for a touchdown. The next possession, they hit a 55-yard touchdown throw. They had an 84-yard touchdown run. Elwood City is good, and they have a great running back. They do. But these guys aren't breaking them for 84 yards like Kaevon Gardner, and they're not running back kickoffs 85 yards like Nate McKnight. They're good, and I give them all the respect that they deserve. But they're not the Red Hurricane, brother. They're just not.
Yeah, Newcastle is a fun team to watch. That were a lot of speed. My number one, naturally, is Elwood City Lincoln with a plus 61 point differential, outscoring teams 126 to 65. Number one, really, do you remember not too long ago when Elwood City was running the table in reverse, going winless every year? Remember when this program had a bear of a time just putting points on the board, never mind wins.
They had a hard time fielding a team. I mean, the numbers were down. Coach Bradley, he's a throwback. He coaches basketball and football. Again, other than Mike Majanic from Aliquippa, I don't know anybody in the Whitfield that has done that. The time that it takes to do that and do it well is all-encompassing. Listen, Elwood's the real deal, and they're good, and they're really good. But I just don't see them having the same firepower that the Red Hurricane has. And their schedule isn't quite as tough. It just isn't, you know. Knock is a good football team. York is a good football team. Hopewell has been down in years past, but they're a pretty good football team. So that's why I have the Hurricane number one. Am I biased? Yeah, I'll be the first one. I'm a Newcastle guy, cuz what can I tell you? I'm biased. And Elijah Palmer McCain is a great running back. He is. That young man is good. I don't think he's Kaevon Gardner, though. I just don't.
One thing we can agree on is both teams are coached by fantastic coaches that are doing great in turning the program around at their respective schools. Dan Bradley at Elwood City and Fred Mazzocco at Newcastle High School. And again, just think a few years ago when we were doing rankings, they were at the other end, leading us off.
Absolutely. They were 7-8. Newcastle and Elwood City were 7-8. It seems like for years. And wow, I'm telling you, they've turned it around. If you could have won a lot of money if you would have said 3 years ago or even 2 years ago that Elwood City and Newcastle High School would be undefeated. And Elwood did lose. Is Elwood, they lost, are they undefeated? Help me here.
They're both undefeated.
They're both undefeated. I'm sorry. That they would be undefeated and the top of the Newcastle News sports rankings. You could have made a lot of money with that bet, with that prop bet. You'd have made a lot of money. And again, it's hard to change culture. It is hard. But they're doing it at Elwood and at Newcastle. And I salute those coaches and I salute the players. It's all about the players, Ronnie. The coach's job is to change the culture. But at the end of the day, the players got to be willing to buy in. And, it's all about the players. Any coach who is worth his or her salt will tell you it's all about the players.
Yep. And while we're talking and lamenting about how these schools have went from left to right in terms of way at the end to way at the beginning, Wilmington has usually been a fixture in right at the top.
Absolutely.
And they are 4 for me, and they are 5 for you. So that tells you how the landscape of high school football is changing around Lawrence County.
Yeah. So again, just to reiterate, I have the Red Hurricane at 1, Elwood City at 2, Neshannock at 3, Mohawk at 4. I had Wilmington at 5, Shenango at 6, Laurel at 7, and Union at 8. And that could change as the season goes on. The key is when you're struggling early is to get incrementally better. Incrementally better. That's the key. Make sure that your kids are totally invested, that they don't quit, that they keep working to get better, because that's a life lesson. It's easy to work hard and be a raw guy when everything is going well. It's a lot tougher to continue to work hard in the face of adversity when things aren't going well. But that's a life lesson that, if nothing else, if you learn that lesson as an athlete, when you cross that bridge from adolescence to adulthood, you got a better chance of being successful.
And my rankings, again, are Elwood City 1, Newcastle 2, Neshannock 3, Wilmington 4, Mohawk 5, Laurel 6, Shenango 7, and Union 8. And the best part about the rankings here, everybody can agree on, especially if you were to ask a coach, they're going to tell you all the same thing. I don't want to be ranked number 1 on September 23rd. I want to be ranked number 1 when November and December hits. That's when I want to.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You don't want to, it's like we used to say in basketball, you don't want to be playing your best hoops in December. You want to be playing your best hoops in March, and it's the same in football. You want to get incrementally better and be playing your best football those last 2 weeks in November and maybe that first week in December, because that's when the playoffs are in full swing.
Make sure you keep this right here, Larry. Laurel is on the upward swing.
Listen, they're 1-3. They could be 4-1 very easily. Easily.
Yeah, they're 1-4 right now, but
1-4.
Yeah,
they could be 4-1. They could be 4-1 very easily. They can. That's a good football team that lost 3 one-possession games. Yeah.
I have them going 4-0 in conference play. They're going to win their first 4 conference games, and it's one of those. Talk to me after 4 when they're playing Southside. We'll see. But you know what? They have a good shot against Southside too. Shenango battled Southside. They lost 34-21. That's a 2-score game. Certainly wasn't a blowout in any sense, but we'll talk about that in a few weeks. But look for 4-0 and don't be surprised.
Laurel's well coached, and I guarantee you, with each passing week, that team will get better.
Yep.
Guaranteed.
Yep. And it's not so much about losing; it's what you learn from your losses, and that coaching staff, certainly is using the knowledge of what happened in those games and teaching them and making sure that they don't make those same mistakes. So, yeah,
Ronnie, I used to say, and I would tell my kids all the time, you don't win or lose, you win or learn. And if you learn from a defeat, then you haven't lost. So I'm sure that's the way Laurel feels about it.
Absolutely. Okay, we have one more segment here on Gridiron, and it is our scheduled portion, and we will do that coming up next, right here on Gridiron.
I became an attorney because I believe in hard work, fairness, and human decency. In a word, justice. Our workers' compensation clients deserve justice because in an instant, their hard work turns into hard times when they get hurt on the job. No doubt, life is tough, but so am I. I've been fighting all my life, and I'll keep fighting for you. I'm Joe George, and here in Lawrence County, it's personal.
We're back with you here on Gridiron. Ron Poniewasz, joined by Homer Simpson. Oh, excuse me, that is Larry Kelly over there. Okay, well,
I've been called worse. Trust me, I've been called worse than Homer Simpson.
All right, schedule first off. Where do you start but the right at the top with Newcastle and Aliquippa? 4-0 Newcastle and 2-1 Aliquippa. Aliquippa had its 27-game winning streak snapped last week by Penn Hills. I believe that's a 5A school. And Aliquippa dug a 21-0 deficit and got back into it before they ran out of time, losing 21-13. I'm sure Newcastle would have loved to have seen Aliquippa come in there undefeated, but hey, it's Aliquippa is Aliquippa, whether it's 3-0 or 2-1.
This is going to be a tough game for the Red Hurricane. They're playing at Aliquippa. But I'm going to make a statement right now. If the Red Hurricane win, I'll be at Taggart Stadium to meet the bus when they come back from the pit in Aliquippa. I will be there to applaud those guys to meet the bus if the Red Hurricane come back victorious. Put it in the book.
Okay. All right. New Brighton 1-1. That was the Newcastle Aliquippa game is the Parkway Conference opener for both schools, by the way. New Brighton 1-1, 3-2 in conference at Elwood City 2-0, 4-0. This is a Midwestern Athletic Conference contest, Larry.
Elwood City's going to take care of New Brighton. They're good, and New Brighton's, they're having a rough year. Elwood City got it going, Ronnie. They have it going.
Well, New Brighton's 3-2, so they're above 500. Maybe that's a little bit down for what they're used to. I'm not sure, but hey, they're over 500 and they are 500 in conference. So, but yeah, Elwood City's playing at home. They're 4-0 for the first time since when?
The Reagan administration.
No, a little bit more recent.
All right, then help me. The Bush administration.
1997, would that be Clinton? I don't know. I'm not a political guy. I don't
Oh,
follow.
man. Yeah, it might be Clinton. The Clinton administration.
I'm
Been a long
surprised.
time.
Now Newcastle's 4-0, and that's the first time since 2002. They're going for 5-0. Who's going to make the wise guy comment of, was that the Lincoln administration?
No, that was we figured it out. It was the Bush, George W. Bush, I think, in 2002. But
Well,
I'm
that's
not a political guy either.
That's 02, and that's 4-0. I'm talking 5-0. When's the last time they were 5-0?
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Long time.
Yeah, because my cards on research go back through the 95 season, and I don't believe that they had a 5-0 season. I'm going to have to, get back to it. And look, Union 0-2 in conference, Midwestern Athletic Conference, first year in the Class 2A conference after moving up from Big 7, 0-4 overall at Mohawk, which is 1-1, 2-2. I just spoke to Tim McCutcheon a little while ago regarding Union. He said they're athletic, they're fast, and you got to really look out for them. They've played them in recent years. However, they haven't been conference play in recent years. So now they get them in conference play. It's county rivalry. Now you add a little bit extra meaning to it.
This isn't the same Union team that Mohawk played the last couple of years. I can just tell you that. Mohawk's going to take care of business. That's a good football team. And as I told you, I think they're running the table the rest of the year. They're that good.
Mm-hmm. Northgate 0-2 in Big 7 play, 2-3 overall at Laurel, which is in league, 1-4 overall. Again, Big 7. Again, I'm bullish on the Spartans. I'm telling you, I like what I see.
Listen, they're playing at home, and this will be an evenly matched game. I think Northgate is a good football team, but I think Laurel's a little better. I agree with you. Laurel could be 4-1. And I expect them to win on Friday night at home.
Yeah. Northgate opened up last week's game against Neshannock, running the opening kickoff back, I believe, 85 yards for a touchdown. And all of a sudden, you're thinking, "Hey, an upset could be in the making." They went up 7-0 on Neshannock. Problem was there was still 47 minutes and 50 seconds or whatever it was, and Neshannock won by 4 touchdowns. So the next game we have a Big 7 play is Shenango 1-1 in conference, 1-2 overall at the aforementioned Neshannock Lancers, which is 1-0 in conference and 3-1 overall under first-year head coach Michael Bonjavingo.
Here's the one thing I learned in my short time at Shenango is that they hate losing to Neshannock. And I'll be rooting for the Wildcats because a bunch of those kids played for me. But Neshannock's good, and they're playing at home. And, I expect Neshannock to win this game on Friday night. They're good. Neshannock's really good, and I expect them to run the table the rest of the way. They're that good.
Trying to remember typing it in my preview capsules. I think Neshannock's won 5 in a row against Shenango, but I don't remember fully, so that could be off. And lastly, we have Wilmington 1-0 in District 10, Region 1, classification 1A, 2A, 3-1 overall at Farrell, which is 1-0 in league, 1-4 overall. Wilmington was idle last week, and Farrell is coming off a tough 14-7 loss to Sharon in a rivalry game. Farrell has owned the play recently, winning 5 or 6 in a row, something like that, over Wilmington, and by a combined 126 points, I think it is. this could be the time Wilmington gets back at them.
I mean, I don't think this is the same Farrell team that they've had in recent years past. Again, a small school, small numbers. And, from year to year, the talent level can be completely different. And if Wilmington's going to get them, I think this is the year to do that.
Yeah. Farrell has 4 losses. They lost to Youngstown Ursuline. And they are, I believe, 3-1 after a big 35-point win over Warren G. Harding last week. Farrell lost to Fort LaBeouf. I believe that was 29-28. They have some close losses. The Ursuline loss again by Farrell was your big point spread differential. The rest of them were close losses. I think 3 losses by 12 points, something like that, somewhere around that frame, and 7 points against Sharon. So they've been competitive, just haven't been able to find a way to the winner's circle.
Farrell hasn't lost 4 games in a season in a long time. So, it's a little surprising. And again, Wilmington is well coached, and that's a school like Laurel that has pedigree. And I expect that they will be week in and week out getting incrementally better, because that's what they do at Wilmington. Yeah,
and this is a region matchup, but it's one of those deals where it's District 10, Region 1, 1A/2A. Wilmington is the team that profiles as 1A after moving down. Farrell stayed in 2A, so this will be the last time that they meet this year. In years past, they have met twice, once in the regular season and once in the District 10 playoffs. This year, it will be the last meeting between the teams in terms of 2024.
Yeah, if you only got to look at Farrell once a year, that wouldn't make you too disappointed as a coach, because they're good. Year in and year out, they're good.
Sure. Okay, Larry, parting words that you might have. Anything that you'd like to say before we close up shop?
If the Red Hurricane take care of Aliquippa, I will be at the stadium waiting for the bus to arrive back in Newcastle. And in fact, I may call the fire chief and tell him to get the fire trucks ready to meet those boys on Route 18 and bring them home. I'll be rooting for the Red Hurricane, Ronnie. I'll be rooting.
It would be nice to see them pull off that win, that's for sure. Montour is up on deck after that game, I believe. And every team in the Parkway, I believe there's 6 teams. 5 of them have a record of over 500. West Allegheny is 0-2 or 0-3, something like that. One of the losses was a blowout, and they have a 32-24 loss. So, West A could be a competitive team also. So that's a very, very tough conference.
It's a meat grinder. It's probably the toughest conference in the WPIAL. It just is. Week in and week out, you better have your big boy pants on, and you better come to play, because these teams are all well coached and well stocked with talent.
Yes. All right. That is our show for you this week here on Gridiron. Great job, Larry Kelly. We appreciate everybody for tuning in and watching our nonsense at any point in the 3 segments. Next week, we'll be back here again with our Athlete of the Week, our scheduled portion, and any topics that might arise. We wish the very best of luck to all of our local schools, student athletes, and coaches. And before we let you go, we'll give you a little promo here on Gridiron. We are very heavy this week on Newcastle. Again, Kaevon Gardner is your Athlete of the Week. We will have a Lineman of the Week from Newcastle. And in Thursday's edition, be sure to tune in on Thursday to your daily paper. In Thursday, we will have not 1, but 2 Newcastle Aliquippa stories. One will be a game preview, and another will be a feature on the Aliquippa Newcastle rivalry. So you'll definitely want to pick up a newspaper on Thursday.
All right. Well, do me a favor. Get me the number for the fire chief in Newcastle, so I can tell him queue up the trucks for Friday night.
You mean you don't have that in your Rolodex?
I don't have the fire chief's number, but I know you'll get it to me and text it to me, because if the Red Hurricane pull off the win, I'm calling them. I want the fire trucks bringing the boys home.
Well, who did you call when Shenango won the WPIL baseball championship?
I didn't call anybody, but there were fire trucks there. I didn't know that Shenango had a fire truck. I didn't know they had fire trucks in Shenango. Somebody was there bringing us home. And listen, everybody should experience that one time. It was the greatest, man. It was the absolute greatest.
Yes. All right. So that's our promo for Thursday's edition. You want to check that out. And if you haven't been following, Poniewasz's best bets are now 18-6. We have three 5-1 weeks and a 3-3 week.
Wow, brother, listen to me. You're better than Jimmy the Greek. I told you. I'm going to start calling you Ronnie the Pollock. Are you Polish? Are you of Polish descent?
What do you think Poniewasz is, Larry? You think it's Chinese? Yeah.
I can't make fun. My best friend in the world, Bob Skineski, is of Polish descent. He lives right next door to me. We've been together forever. He was a great baseball player at Newcastle and an All-American at Slippery Rock when I was up there. So,
2 parlays I hit yesterday in NFL games and one on Sunday. And if the Bills can pull off the...
they're killing them. They're winning 34-3 the last time I checked.
I had -5.5, and that'd be a 4-team parlay. That'd be 3 NFL parlays I've hit this week and a college one.
Oh, wow. Okay. Great work, Ronnie. Great work.
Following Poniewasz's best bets, you want to grab a paper for Thursday. He's Larry Kelly. I'm Ron Poniewasz. Good luck, Newcastle. Get that win on the road against Aliquippa. It'll be great times for sure, and good best of luck to everybody, all of our teams. We'll see you back here next week on the award-winning Gridiron podcast.
If Newcastle wins, I will be down at the stadium to meet the bus when they come home, and I will call the fire chief at the city of Newcastle to tell him to queue up the fire trucks and give him an escort back to Taggart Stadium. You can put that in the book.